This is Rich Eisen. His best case scenario for the Falcons, Saints, Bucs, and Panthers in the 2024 season. Now, usually I would only react to the Saints portion of this, but because we got a full house, well, we're going to do the entire video. I'm going to put on a damn show. So get involved in the chat. We'll be reading chat, all of that. Let's do it.
In case you're wondering how things go here on the show, sometimes we really put some hard work into coming up with segment ideas. We'll talk about it. We'll have meetings. We'll do stuff like that. Or right before the show, I'll turn to Mike Hoskins, our coordinating producer, saying, yeah, I want to do this. And you guys over here and go, yeah, that's not a bad idea. And the higher register, I'll just ignore and say, I think it is a good idea. So we decided,
come on, Rich,
with an idea where last year, the record for very well done.
Here we go.
NFC South today. Let's start with the Carolina Panthers. They had 2 wins last year. The record for most improved wins year over year in the history of the NFL is 10. It's 10.
Whoa.
The Indianapolis Colts, the year before Peyton Manning, had 3 wins. The year after having Peyton Manning, 13. Okay.
That doesn't count.
So,
all right. So let me give some context to the video. So what we're going to be talking, or what Rich is going to be talking about, is the absolute best case scenario for all of the NFC South teams. So Falcons, Saints, Bucs, and Panthers. So you can look at this in a bunch of different ways, right? I don't like whenever, like, obviously the best case scenario is the Super Bowl, right? The best case scenario is everyone's the best player ever. Everyone does this. Everyone does that. Boom, boom, boom. You win the Super Bowl. But that also can't be the answer, because there wouldn't be a point. There would not be a point of the video, right? There wouldn't be a point of the discussion. So you do have to kind of keep it into a relatively realistic world with this. So just keep that in mind. Low Productions, how's it going? Hello, may I request a video? Yeah, go ahead and put it in chat, or put the name of it or whatever in chat, and then I'll if we have time, we'll take a look.
So we're going to throw that out.
Yeah.
I will say this. Best case scenario, Coach Canales shows up and his offense starts cooking, right? And their first-round draft choice is
Here's the deal. Best case scenario for the Carolina Panthers is Bryce Young is not the worst quarterback in the NFL. Bryce Young does start to learn. Bryce Young starts to kind of figure it out. That is their best case scenario, because right now they are absolutely sunk. They are absolutely sunk with the trade to get Bryce Young, the roster. They have to have him be something. So even if he was just marginally better and they won 5 games, that would be a huge improvement for the Panthers. And that's what they need. So they don't need Bryce Young to be an all-pro. They don't need Bryce Young to be the best player in the NFL. They don't need to make the playoffs for this to be a best case scenario for the Panthers. Best case scenario for them is that Bryce Young is something, and Dave Canales can pull something out of Bryce Young like he did last year with Baker Mayfield.
Xavier Legette and Jonathan Brooks. They drafted that kid, the running back, out of Texas, and you add them to the mix of some of the veterans that are already there, and Bryce Young, the light goes on in a way that it didn't last year. And the defense balls out, despite Brian Burns not being there anymore. I will say this: I think the best case scenario,
6 wins. Best case scenario is 6 wins, and that is nuts. That is crazy if they win 6 games. I'd be absolutely befuddled. So I'm going on a bit of a reach there, but absolute best case scenario is 6 wins.
Is plus 6 wins.
Oh,
and they go 8-9.
What?
And or plus 7 wins. I'll even say that. But that's a very, very tall order.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
They're just a game above 500, I think, is the best case scenario. To go
That'd
from
be
2
absolutely
wins to
insane.
9 wins, I think, is really glass half full, and that's where I'll go with that one. The New Orleans Saints, we got them.
Here we go.
In year 1, Cliff Kubiak is their new offensive coordinator.
Okay. In chat right now, what do y'all think is the best case scenario for the Saints? Chase Cottom, hi James, how's it going, man? Best case scenario for the Panthers is 6 wins, I believe so, yeah. All right, so Rich, we're about to get into it. So in the chat right now, let me know what your best case scenario is for the Saints, and we're gonna rock and roll.
You already heard earlier on this program Dennis Allen say he thinks the offense is going to be significantly different.
No, I said that, Rich. I said that.
They've only done it the Sean Payton way, essentially.
Yes.
Pete Carmichael was a
I actually
holdover
did
from
say
the
that.
Sean Payton era and Dennis Allen's first couple years there. So I'm going to go out and say, Kamara's still there. They've got some really. Olave is going to potentially take a step forward. They've got some good players there. Taste Some of This is still giving out some of the business.
Yeah.
And Derek Carr's first full year under his belt, living in the Bayou. Now he's got a new offense here. I'll say this team winning the division and making the divisional playoff round, I think, is feasibly the best case scenario for them.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah, I mean that's okay. He kind of nailed that. He didn't really say anything. But man, I whenever y'all know what I think about the analysis. Whenever it's just like, yeah, well, Kamara's there and Carr's there and Taysom's there, so I don't know, 9 wins. I'm not a fan of that, but I do think directionally he is right here. Directionally, best case scenario is they win the division, they host a playoff game, maybe win a game like Tampa did against Philly. Win a playoff game, get into the second round. That is probably best case. Now you could argue, is 9 wins win the division? Is 10 wins win the division? Does 11 wins win the division? I think 10 minimum wins the division. So 10, 11 games, I think is best case scenario. Let's see what chat has to say. 10 wins, 12-5, 11, 10. 8's a little low. Make the playoffs, 10 wins, 10, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12. 13 is not. 13's wild. 13's wild. 11, yeah. 15. Oh, Jay, the one and only Jake Hayner's in chat, ladies and gentlemen. Jake, stay off the sauce, son. Stay off the sauce. 9, 10. Yeah, so we're all in about the same world. I think, man, that's about right. Like the Saints, 7 games are pretty much, I don't want to say guaranteed, but we should win 7 games. If you look at win 1 against the Falcons, win 1 against the Bucs, 2 against the Panthers. I'm doing this from memory here, so help me out. Then you beat the Giants, you beat the Commanders, you beat the Broncos, okay? And then, then you have the Raiders. So let's take the Giants off. So the Giants are a coin toss, but then that's 7 games right there, okay? Then you have the Giants, if we took them off and they were a coin toss or whatever, or a coin flip. You have the Giants now. You've got which would get you to 8. You've got obviously the big games, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Chiefs. Am I just ripping the schedule off of memory here, ladies and gentlemen? Those coin flip games, the Browns, the Rams, the Packers, if you win 1 or 2 of those, that's how you get to 10 wins. But that's a tall order, right? It's a tall order to beat Green Bay prime time, tall order to beat Kansas City prime time, tall order to go and beat Dallas or even to beat the Rams and to beat the Browns. But it's possible is what I want to tell you. It's possible. I feel like we could go 11 with a couple of those coin toss games for sure. Because if we're at 8 or 9, we take care of business against the teams we're supposed to take care of business to, and the Chargers, there you go. Like, if we take care of business against the teams that I just listed, and then we also beat the Giants, the Chargers, the Browns at home, that all of a sudden now you're at 10-ish wins. And that's how you get to 10, 11, right? So it does sound like a lot, but it's right there for us. And we don't even have to beat. That's not me saying, oh, we're going to beat the Chiefs. Oh, we're going to beat the Cowboys. Oh, we're going to beat we're going to beat everybody. That's not even me saying that. That's just me saying, like, okay, we got to win like 2 of these games, 2 of these 5 games. That's all I'm saying. And if we do that, bam, we're right there. We're right at 10. We're right at 11. We're winning the division. And that, if there is an upset, if we do sweep Atlanta, or if we do sweep Tampa, or if we do beat Dallas, or if we do win one of those games, hell, we're easy 10, 11 wins. No, I mean, 100%. I think 7 is borderline guaranteed. Borderline guaranteed. All right. So take that for what it's worth. But I think the division, so to answer Rich's question, the division is the best case scenario. Hosting a playoff game, winning that playoff game, a la the Buccaneers last year. That's the best case scenario. And I'd be the happiest person in New Orleans if that happened. I'd be absolutely thrilled. Absolutely thrilled if that happened. I'd be happiest man on earth. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Rich sounds like he's there directionally. So let's hear what he has to say.
With the ultimate of respect, and the defense, they've got Lattimore, Tyrann Mathieu. I know Cam Jordan's not going to appear on the program now because I'm not saying that they could win their division and make an NFC Championship game or win a Super Bowl. I just feel if I sit here and say the Saints can win the Super Bowl this year, I'd be out of I'd be out of pocket.
Yeah.
But I think you nailed it with them.
Thank you.
Same.
Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay.
I think
the Bucs. I think best case scenario would probably be the same thing as last year. I think their best case scenario for them is to win the division, win 10-ish games. They're the same. All the Falcons are the only team that I think has a little bit higher of a ceiling, like when it comes to like this kind of a conversation, because they have so many unknown players. We know what the Buccaneers are going to do. We know what the Saints are going to do as far as like Kamara, Olave, Carr. Like we know what those guys are going to do, right? We know what Baker Mayfield is going to do. We know what Mike Evans is going to do. We know what that defense is going to do. They're going to be right there around 9-10 wins. And if that's how many wins you have, somewhere between 9 and 11 wins, your best case scenario is win your division, host a playoff game. Buccaneers showed you that last year.
the best case scenario for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year is winning the Super Bowl.
What? What? Can we get some what's in chat? What? How? In what universe? For them to win think about them winning the Super Bowl. Dave Canales leaves. So now you've got Liam Cohen. You have a whole different offensive coordinator coming in. You've got Baker Mayfield, who had basically a career year last year. He's going to take another step forward. He's going to take another step. What's he going to be, the MVP? Is the defense going to be the best defense in the NFL all of a sudden? How could they possibly? They overachieved last year. So for them then to overachieve again, to push into the playoffs, win a Super Bowl, that is insane.
I think this team that had a possession to make it a really tight game for the Detroit Lions in the divisional round last year, you could sit here and say that they were on fumes, that they were basically running at maximum power, but they have a team that is being brought back. The chemistry is there. Baker has been paid. Evans has been paid. A bunch of guys are being brought back. Levante David is back. And I think that would permeate a locker room in such a way that they could win this division, maybe get a couple of home playoff games.
You sure as hell better. If you're planning on the Buccaneers winning, if you're Rich, who I guess is, does he live in Tampa? If you're Rich and you're predicting this, you better hope they're winning like 12 games and they're hosting at least 2 playoff games, because there's no way in hell they're hosting a playoff game and then going to San Francisco or wherever they have to go to and winning that playoff game and then going to the Super Bowl and all that. No way. That is crazy. That is absolutely insane. That to me is the same thing as saying the Saints are going to do it. I can't believe he said that. I can't believe he said saying the Saints will go to the Super Bowl is crazy. Okay, now I'm going to say the Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. That's just as crazy.
Go to the playoffs and shock the world. Best case scenario. Am I saying it's going to happen? I can't sit here and say a team that was one of the final 8 teams has no chance to win the Super Bowl this year in a best case scenario. If we're going glass half full, and that's the way we're walking into this segment, how can you sit here and say a team that did that last year and the general manager said, we believe in you, we're bringing you back? They got a kid in the draft out of Duke that will hopefully replace Ryan Jensen successfully.
I mean, anytime they got a kid in the draft from Duke, like anytime that's your analysis, it's not good. But he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. Like he was in the Saints. He did the Saints one correctly. He was like, okay, let's try and reel this in, keep it realistic. This, and this. Let's not get crazy here. Then he immediately gets crazy. He immediately goes nuts. He immediately says, you know what? Forget all that. He immediately says, Graham Barton? Yeah, Graham Barton from Duke. There he is. He's immediately saying, you know what? Throw all that stuff out the window. Let's lose all the realistic aspects of this segment. And let's just say if everybody's the best player on earth and everyone takes a step forward and they shock the world, then they're going to win the Super Bowl. Every team could say that. Every team can say, well, I mean, if they shock the world, then boom, they'll win the Super Bowl. It's okay, but the point of the segment is what's the realistic best case scenario.
In the middle of that offensive line, Tristan Wirfs is on the left tackle. Stay healthy and go win some games.
Like 12-5, 2 or 3 seed.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Go to San Francisco, score the upset.
Shock them. And Baker Mayfield is Baker friggin' Mayfield.
Yeah. Like a 40
That's
touchdown
insane.
season from him.
Insane.
A best case scenario.
Yeah, best case. Yeah.
Best case scenario for the Atlanta Falcons.
Best case scenario for the Falcons, I think the Falcons do have a little bit of that, like, well, if all of these superstar players, quote unquote superstar, if Bijan Robinson, if Drake London, if Kyle Pitts, if all these players take a huge step forward, I mean, they're all top 10 draft picks. If all that happens, like, okay, that is basically, that's why I think the Falcons do have a little bit of a higher upside, is the fact that they do have some unknowns. So we'll see what Rich says here. I would say best case scenario for the Falcons is probably like 12 wins. I would say best case scenario for them is 12 wins. Kirk Cousins is fully healed, and then, like I said, all those players finally realize their potential, and Bijan Robinson is a legitimate, like, the best running back in the NFL. Drake London is a legit star. Kyle Pitts is just a decent player, I guess. Like, if that probably is the best case scenario for the Falcons. So somewhere around 12-5 NFC Championship game, I would say is the absolute best case scenario for them.
Here you go.
But Kirk Cousins, like, again, ladies and gentlemen, Kirk Cousins, he's won one playoff game in his entire career. So it's really difficult. It is really difficult to ask a guy to do something he's never done before at this stage of his career, coming off of a torn Achilles. So to say, like, well, Kirk Cousins has never won back-to-back playoff games. Kirk Cousins is 1-4, I believe. Someone double check me. 1-4 in playoff games. So now you're going to tell me that coming off of a torn Achilles, first year in Atlanta, with a head coach who hasn't won nothing, with an offensive coordinator who's never even called plays, all of a sudden he's going to win 3 or 4 playoff games in a row? Oh, and Raheem Morris, who's never been a winning head coach, is all of a sudden going to be a winning head coach? Like, to ask all those players to do something they've never done before all at the same time seems a bit questionable.
They win the Super Bowl, and they give Arthur Blank his trophy.
Right.
And they made every right move, from signing Kirk Cousins and going and getting Raheem Morris as their coach. And he's putting something on the table of what he's selling, and everyone buys in. And Kyle Pitts has the season of his life. And Kirk Cousins finally has a spot in a dome, in a division.
He played in a dome. Minnesota was in a dome.
That he can go in and start throwing it around. He looks as spry as ever.
He's never looked spry.
This team balls out because Raheem Morris is bringing his style of play.
Raheem Morris' style of play, he's like 20 games under 500 as the head coach.
And on top of it, just for good measure, a couple of games that Cousins maybe gets hurt in.
So now, oh my God, now Cousins is getting hurt, and they're still winning the Super Bowl.
Gets knocked out in. Michael Penix comes in and wins both of them, and shows that, yes, we needed this kid. He also, in a Super Bowl year with Kirk Cousins, gets the requisite amount of reps and real-time action in the NFL to start him off on the program that they are now going to be viewed as wisely undertaking. Get the kid who's next while you've got the veteran here to put the one in the case for Arthur Blank that they wanted to do. Is that the best case scenario for the Atlanta Falcons?
1,000%.
Would that be just all?
What the hell? Rich said, okay, here's the deal. Let's be really realistic with the Saints, but then let's go totally out of control with the Buccaneers and the Falcons. What? It's like I watched two different shows. He was Mr. Serious with the Saints. He was very locked in. He said, you know what? Let's be realistic here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go 9-10 wins, divisional round, okay? Then the very next team, he said, you know what? We're coming out guns blazing. You know what? We're coming out. We're saying, this guy shocks the world. This guy has an MVP season. This guy breaks this record. And then boom, Super Bowl. Boom, Super Bowl for you. Super Bowl for you. Super Bowl for you. Insane.
Off the charts, best case scenario for them.
But no quarterback controversy, right?
At all.
So Kirk's out a week with a concussion.
Right, and he comes
Penix
back.
starts, wins the game,
Right.
boom,
Plays
Kirk's
just
job.
well enough to win, doesn't screw it up.
Right. Kirk
Maybe
his
gets
job.
a couple more times. And of course,
still going.
no controversy at all.
No controversy.
Because it's clearly Kirk Cousins' team, and they had such a great start that it's his team, and they love him, and he loves them, and Atlanta loves him, and he loves Atlanta, and Penix gets a couple of games in there, maybe a couple wins in, and they go and they win the Super Bowl.
Kyle Pitts scores.
By the way, in New Orleans, in the home of the Saints. Oh my God, is that the best case scenario for the Atlanta Falcons?
Kyle Pitts scores American touchdowns.
All of them.
Bijan,
Oh, yes.
1,600. Drake London
Correct.
does. Okay,
right.
Okay.
Cousins is MVP. Offensive Player of the Year is Bijan Robinson. Penix gets some wins. They win the Super Bowl in New Orleans.
That would go.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and can y'all hear this, ladies and gentlemen? Do y'all hear Nitro Circus outside of my window right now? Evil Knievel must be jumping off of the roof or something. It's unbelievable. Unreal. But like I said, like Rich is obviously being tongue-in-cheek at the end there, saying that Cousins will be MVP, Bijan will be Offensive Player of the Year, 1,600 yards, whatever. But that is like what you have to do. And he kind of let himself get a little crazy. He let himself get a little loose there. And all of a sudden, boom, everyone's winning the MVP. So he got a little long in the segment. He started off hot. If the Saints would have been last in the segment, he probably would have given them a Super Bowl. He started off realistic. He got out of control at the end there. I think virtually Bucs, Falcons, Saints are all right there, like as far as their best case scenario. I think that, okay, hold on. Daniel Thompson, he's not saying that's what's going to happen, just a scenario. So he started off the segment saying these are realistic scenarios, right? Realistic scenarios that can happen. Best case, realistic scenarios. It's not realistic to say that the best case scenario is all these players win MVPs, all these players win Offensive Player of the Year, all these players have their best season ever, and they win the Super Bowl. So he started off in the middle where he should have been, and he got all the way at the end there. But I think, like I said, all three teams are pretty much the same. The Falcons probably have a little bit of a higher ceiling because of the unknown of the young players, but I would say the Falcons, super best case, 12-5, NFC title game, somewhere in there. But, you know, so that's what I think. Let's get caught up in chat here. Baker is mobile. He was mobile against us last year, that's for sure. Baker is a much better athlete than people give him credit for. For sure. Brother just wrote The Lord of the Rings with that take. The media hyping up the Falcons and Bucs is crazy. It's just, Lacey, what I think it is I think it's that the media, like the Bucs and the Falcons, the Bucs have been the division champion, and the Falcons got Kirk Cousins, and that's all the media needs to like run with the narratives. You're right, it is lazy. I think the three teams are close, but we are the one with the highest ceiling. Carr's ceiling is higher than Cousins and Baker's. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, like, I agree with that. I just think that when you have those young players that they have, if they do, we don't know what their like peak is. We have a pretty good idea what Alvin Kamara's peak is. We have a pretty good idea of what Derek Carr's peak is. We have a pretty good idea of what the defense's peak is for us. Same with Tampa. Tampa knows, like, okay, we know what the peak of Baker is. We know what the peak of Mike Evans is. We know what the peak of Chris Godwin is. But the Falcons, they truly don't know what the peak of Bijan, Drake, Kyle Pitts is just yet, I don't think. His opinions doesn't matter. It'll matter when the season begins. True. There you go. Big true and big real. That is big true and big real. I'm like T-Bob. I'll bet everything Falcons are not winning the division. I mean, I could see them not for sure. I could see the Falcons really struggling. I could see the Saints struggling. I could see the Buccaneers taking a step backwards. I mean, but I could see the Falcons. If Kirk gets hurt, or if it just doesn't work in the first year. Like, first years are weird. First years are tough. You never know. Teams can need a year. I mean, the Saints just saw this. They needed a year to work things out. They needed a year to kind of get to know each other. They needed that whole growing period. The Falcons might too. Kirk Cousins is a weird dude. No hate. Kirk Cousins is a guy who he likes to play at noon. He likes to play in a dome. He likes his routine. So him going from Minnesota to Atlanta is shaking up his routine big time. Big time. He's in a new locker room, new coaches, new uniform, and trust me, the human element does matter. It does matter. Remember, James, Kirk can get hurt. Penix will win every game he plays. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, like, that's when he got off the rails. When he was like, whenever he said, "Oh, LOL," by the way, Kirk Cousins is going to get hurt in the Super Bowl run, and Michael Penix is going to step in and win, no problem. Division is up for grabs, and that's without injuries. Yeah, division is up for grabs. I think it's a three horse race for sure. I might be the biggest Drake London hater. The Falcons have names on offense that should be really good, but all of their weapons have not produced. 100%. Yeah, they have big names. I mean, that's what I was saying with Bijan. I was saying that I still have Falcons fans slobbering all over their keyboards, crying their eyes out every morning because I said Bijan was just kind of okay last year. He was good, but he wasn't that much better than a lot of running backs that you would consider kind of okay. Like Bijan was not that much better than the DeAndre Swifts of the world or the. But because he's young, because he was drafted highly, because he has some highlight type plays, the media blows him out of proportion. It acts like he's the next LaDainian Tomlinson. Same with Kyle Pitts. Like, Kyle Pitts might as well be Juwan Johnson right now. Like Kyle Pitts was drafted, 8th overall, but for all we know, he's just Foster Moreau. We haven't really seen anything to be like, oh, this guy is a weapon. This guy's, he's really, really good. And Drake London, same thing. Drake London's okay. Drake London's all right. Is he a top 10 wide receiver? Probably not. Who's their second wide receiver? All right. All of a sudden now you're getting to like you're reaching a little bit.